Hi everyone and welcome to the Dodo Bird Nerd. It's me, the Dodo Bird Nerd, and in today's LEGO video, I'm going to be going over the potential characteristics of a Japanese river otter LEGO piece, continuing my series of potential extinct animal LEGO pieces. So, without any further ado, let's roll the intro and let's get started. So one quick thing before we get started, that being that all works used will be linked in the description of the video. So the first thing to discuss when talking about a potential Japanese river otter LEGO piece is to talk about what the size of the piece would have to be. So in order to be accurate to the real life Japanese river otter, the piece would have to be around 3 studs in length for the body and another 1 to 2 studs for the tail. There is a currently existing river otter piece that could work. However, it would need to be recolored from the current light blue with like glitter sparkle color because it was made for a Harry Potter Patronus set. So they would need to obviously recolor it to get it more accurate, but that piece could work, though a new piece could also work as well. It could go either way, really. So the next thing to discuss is what exactly the color would have to be of this piece in order to be accurate to the Japanese river otter. The piece would be mainly reddish brown or dark brown in color. I'm leaning towards dark brown, but in theory it could go either way, with white printing on the lower part of the face as well as on the chest. And it has black printing for the eyes. And then maybe they could do some light gray printing for the whiskers, though again it is optional for them to do that. It just can make it maybe look a bit more accurate, but generally just the brown body with the black eye and the white printing on the lower face and chest would generally get the idea across for a Japanese river otter LEGO piece. Now, the final thing to go over is where exactly would this piece show up if they wanted to make one. There are a few possibilities, which there are actually some differences from the past in terms of where it could show up as compared to like this one compared to maybe past ones. There's a bit more variety. Some of the more consistent ones are still there, but there are definitely some differences, unlike some of the past ones. The first one is one of our more consistent ones, a museum set. Museums tend to have stuffed versions of extinct animals, so a Japanese river otter piece could fit in there. A zoo set is another possibility. While most zoo statuaries tend to be for dinosaurs if they're an extinct animal, well, Japanese river otters are still extinct, so it still could potentially show up there. A new theme is another possibility. Obviously, it's kind of hard to predict what a new theme could bring, but I mean, we could see some sort of like time travel with extinct animals theme as a possibility where this could show up, but again, we can't really say for certain because again, it would be a theme that isn't out yet. The next one would be generally any set with a river otter, because while there are differences between the Japanese river otter and, for example, the Eurasian or the North American river otter, they're generally the same body shape and coloring, I think. Maybe a bit different on the size and maybe some of the coloring, but generally they have the same body shape. So in theory, they could use the same piece, and then you could purpose it as whichever version of the river otter you wanted to. However, a more specific one would get the more accurate details specific to this subspecies. I believe this one's a subspecies of the Eurasian river otter, not the North American one. But again, generally any set with a river otter could work, though a more specific piece would probably be better if you wanted to go for this specific subspecies, because again, there would be some slight differences. And then a Ninjago set is another possibility. This is quite simply due to the fact there has been some parts of Japanese culture shown in through those Ninjago sets, mainly stuff like the Oni, and I believe it was season 10 of the show. And since this animal was native to Japan, they could show up in a Ninjago set. I don't exactly know how they would do it, other than just a random river otter in a Ninjago set. Like, they could try to build it into a story, but I don't exactly know how it would build into that, unless you had like some like poachers as the villains, maybe. But generally, I think it could just show up randomly in a Ninjago set, though I wouldn't place any high amount of confidence in it. I just thought I would mention it as a possibility towards where one could show up. So another possibility for where they could put a Japanese river otter Lego piece would be in an Animals of Japan Lego set. Now, I've already mentioned something similar to this in past episodes of this series, except for where the animal I was discussing in that episode was from, but since the Japanese river otter was from Japan, as the name would suggest, they could put it in a set dedicated to or based on the animals from Japan as one possibility for where this piece could show up. And the final place where it could show up would be in a minifigure series. Now, this one's definitely more likely than some of the past ones in this series for showing up in a minifigure series. Definitely more so than the Aurochs and the Moa from the previous two. But the reason I think this one has a higher chance is because the piece, assuming they go for the recolor of the currently existing Otter piece, already exists. They could very easily do it without having to do a new mold for an Otter piece, or for the minifigure series. They could focus on maybe making a different piece of new mold for that minifigure, or use that money or whatever that they saved, just reusing the currently existing River Otter piece and recoloring it to do more different molds for some of the other figures. This figure would also probably be very popular, as people would want to army build river otters. It probably wouldn't matter which one. If it was more specific to a Japanese river otter, again, it would fit more with an extinct animal, but again, as I mentioned previously, most river otters would work to show this off. There would just, again, be some slight differences in size or coloring, though if they're just doing a reuse of the previous existing otter piece, then it would mainly just be differences in coloring, which might not be the most noticeable thing. So again, it could definitely work, especially because the currently existing river otter piece is a Eurasian otter, due to the fact it was a Harry Potter Patronus piece, and Harry Potter takes place in Britain. So again, it could definitely show up in a minifigure series, and I would definitely put it higher up in terms of showing up in a minifigure series and maybe some other parts of some other animals in this series. So, what do you think of my general description of a potential Japanese river otter Lego piece? Let me know in the comments down below. What extinct animal do you want me to do next in this series? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!